Next up is an innovation to a common kitchen accessory.
What's up, Sharks? My name is Tog, and I'm from Clifton, New Jersey. I'm seeking $150,000 for 20% equity in my company. Sharks, I love to cook, and tongs are one of the best tools that I have in the kitchen.
Whatever you're doing right now, I need you to stop what you're doing and give some super claps for Super Tog. Woo! Welcome, Tog. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and I'm sorry to kill you on this. It's Tog. I should
Tog. Oh my God! I just watched it. I mean, I literally have it up here on the screen. I ate my dinner and watched it so I could take all these notes. Tog.
It's all good.
It's
all good.
I'm so sorry.
Even though the Sharks even kind of botched my name too, but I let it ride.
You know, that's one of the things that's hard about doing this show is I don't pre-watch the episodes. I generally don't even sometimes I'll get the offer and the names just so I could try to like write them down. And sometimes like I don't know how to pronounce it. I go into it and then I'm like, am I saying it right? I don't know if I'm saying it right. I could take like any words and say it, pronounce it like 6 different ways. Like it's a superpower. And it's a really crappy one at that. So so I'm gonna pronounce it wrong again. It's Tog, right?
Yep, you
Tog,
got it.
Or Tog. No, Tog. Okay.
Tog.
I'm Tog. Okay. Tog. I'm going to put an E at the end of your name so I remember to Tog.
Right on.
Yes. Awesome. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, Tog, tell us, what was your relationship with Shark Tank prior to knowing that you'd be going down the path of getting to go on Shark Tank?
Oh, well, longtime fan. I mean, big fan. My family was a big fan. You know, I mean, it's always come on. And I mean, I think a lot of people feel the same way, is that even though you'll catch it and there'll be some kind of rerun, somehow, some way, you just end up watching the whole episode. You know, it just happens. But yeah, I've been a long time fan, and you know, just getting the opportunity to go was just a big, just a moment for me. So it was huge.
Was it an aspiration to go on the show? Like, you know, as somebody who watched it for a long period of time?
Funny enough, my mom, I mean, this is like a family thing. My brother and my mom, we all used to just watch it all the time. And there was always a joke saying, hey, you know, why couldn't you guys, you know, come up with something and get on that show? And my reaction was always like, come on, get out of here. No, I'm not made for this, yada, yada. But never had plans to get on the show. Never even thought in a million years that, you know, I'd be walking down that hall. So there I was.
That is absolutely awesome. So when you started your business, obviously you said that you had a pretty wide corporate background, right? Deep corporate background, including the likes of Nintendo and AOL. Can you go into a little bit about what you did at those companies?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been doing digital design, user experience design, interaction design. Those are all just fancy words, but really, you know, I've been designing digital experiences for big, you know, corporate companies, you know, some bigger names, as you just mentioned. Yeah, I've been just doing that for over 10 years and kind of just, you know, jumping from corporate to corporate, did a few startups, and you know, really kind of, I just felt that I just going to be escalating and moving up the ladder in my career. Which, you know, I did, but it got to a point where, you know, there was an itch to do something else. So that's what kind of led me to Anytongs.
And is there any specific works that you could attribute, you know, like you could attribute to that, like you are allowed to put your stamp on?
Oh yeah, like certainly. So, you know, the work that I was doing at AOL, I mean, I was working for the movie phone channel. I was doing stuff for AOL games. I mean, you know, I don't think there's going to be anything that really anyone will remember. I mean, these were just really
movie phones. Come on, man. I was a big AOL user early, you know, in the early 90s, mid.
That's awesome.
Mid-90s.
I love that you know that. I love that you remember movie phone. I mean, you know. So there were a lot of designers working on small pieces. I mean, you know, I was entry level when I first joined the AOL. I got hired right out of college. You know, actually, I got hired while I was still in school. Then I ended up finishing school, and I just started working there full time. And yeah, I was doing smaller scale work with a bunch of other designers on multiple channels on AOL. It was movie phone, games, etc. And after a little bit of time, I left there. Worked a little bit of time down by Wall Street for a media company, and then that's when I moved on to Nintendo. They had opened up a office in New York City. They're based out of Redmond, Washington. So when that happened, I applied, and they called back, and I interviewed and did that whole thing, and I was amazed that I was having this chance to work on Nintendo, and I was a big fan. I think many would say growing up, who didn't play these games, right? So getting that opportunity was just a big deal for me, and I was working on the marketing team and working on their websites for their flagship games, things like all the Mario titles, Donkey Kong titles, Nintendo Wii. That was during the time when Nintendo Wii was exploding. So
I was going to ask what era we're talking here.
yeah. That was the era, and that's when really Nintendo just kind of blew up. So I was kind of there at a peak time, and Nintendo's still killing it. I love the company, but that's what I've been doing.
Wow. So that's awesome. Yeah, I actually waited out for when the Wii launched. I got it home. I called my boy Matt up. It's like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. He comes over, and I'm like doing the waggle thing, and I'm like, oh God, this is not what I was expecting. But okay, and obviously the most popular thing on the Wii was Wii Bowling, Wii Sports, and as a whole. And yeah, that was probably I had other games for the Wii, but most of my favorite games are on the GameCube, personally.
Nice.
Most of them are. There was a few games I got into, but for the most part, favorite Nintendo console by far, it's like Super Nintendo, then GameCube, and then the Wii's kind of far behind. I never even got a Wii U. It just wasn't for me at the time.
Yeah, when those nunchucks came out, everyone was just sort of like, wait, what is this? And it's funny you brought up the bowling piece, because that was probably my biggest project was Wii Sports Resort when that first launched.
Oh wow.
And I concepted out this big experience where we were going to be doing video of everything, showing how actually people will be using it. There was like a lot of green screen. We worked with this agency, and I was helping produce it. It was incredible, like just super fun. And every time there was a title that you're working on, everyone had the games before. You had the demo versions, the rough cuts, and you're just kind of playing them at your desk. It was incredible. It was amazing.
Oh, that's right. Wii Fit was a big one as well.
Oh yeah.
That was cool. I got that like launch day, and I definitely got my use out of that.
Worked on that project too. It was amazing.
So all right, so when it came time for the potential for Shark Tank, did you apply to be on Shark Tank, or did they reach out to you?
They had actually reached out. This was after I had launched that Kickstarter, and I saw this email late. This email came in, and I didn't see it for probably a month later. And the first thing I thought was, this is some kind of scam. There's no way. But you kind of look at the email where it came from, and it checked out. And I was amazed to see that in my inbox.
Oh wow, yeah. That's so your inbox must look like most people's inboxes that are pretty disoriented and like thousands upon thousands of emails in the inbox.
Yeah, what's worse, that email came into my catch-all. It was like at info@anytongs.com, and that was it, just off the website. So of course I wasn't checking that religiously.
So I think there's a big lesson there, which is check your email, get it in line, and keep it. I'm an inbox zero person. Now, with that said, my inbox is not always at zero.
Salute.
Yeah, right? Like I think I use it as a to-do list, and I've done that for, I don't know, since probably like 2005 or 6. When I first, like, because in 2004, I started full time in my family's company, and until then, like, I just kind of like let things go. But then I found it harder and harder to, like, every time I look at an email, I gotta check it unread so that I know how to go back to like find it. And I think I lost a whole mess of emails at one point, and that's when I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go inbox 0. And like right now, I think I have like 13 emails. It actually makes me anxious now to have more than like 5 to 10 emails in my inbox at any given moment.
Oh man, if you saw my phone, you'd crash. You'd crash. I mean, it's bad. It's really bad. I just let it go.
I can't. I want to. I really want to. But it just I can't do it. I can't pull myself to do that. But So okay, so going for so they reach out to you and you start to go down that process. Now let's talk about how you balanced that process, because it is a gauntlet that you have to go through, balancing the business, and you were still working at one of the companies at the time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right.
And a family. How old are how many kids, and how old are your kids?
So I got 2 little kids. Marcus, my son, he is 6, and my daughter Jordan, she's 5.
Oh, so, I got a 6 and 5-year-old too. It's awesome.
No kidding, man. Congrats, dude. That's awesome.
Thank you. You too. You too. So balancing that act. I mean, I know it's I mean, for somebody who I know, for me at least, who wants to be involved in everything, right? Being at all the practices and being at, and that was easy when during, the illness time, where it's like, we ain't doing anything anyway. Like I could just schedule things whenever I want because I'm home, so it's not like I'm missing out on anything, and they don't have anything. And now just like 4 to 5 days a week, it's I'm leaving work early. I'm making sure that I'm there. I can't even imagine trying to balance that everything I have going on, and then a Shark Tank proposal, going down that gauntlet. So how did you balance that time with your family and your business and your work?
Yeah, it's just planning things out, really just seeing, hey, what do I need to get done this week, and just kind of just compartmentalizing your time, for that week. I have to be very, very honest with you. This wasn't like grueling work. It was taking up time in the evenings. I made sure that I did the work outside of family time, after the kids are in bed. A couple of times, of course, my wife, she was a big supporter. She helped out where she can. Sometimes we'll say, hey, you know what, you got to do some stuff, go get out of here, go disappear, do what you got to do. So those times have been super helpful, but that was a very, very few times. And on weekends, maybe a couple hours here and there. But, really, my biggest thing was just to plan out exactly what you need to get done, and just be smart about it, be strategic, be very, very aggressive with your priorities. And I think that worked out really well for me. It really did not eat into any of my lifetime, my time in life, I should say.
Well, no, that's great to hear. I mean, I know for me, it's all about waking up as early as possible, whether it's 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, depending on how late I get to sleep the night before, and trying to get as much in as I can in the morning before I have to go to the shop. And then when I get home, it's family time, except on Wednesdays where I'm here with you. And then, then it's, or we have to go to those other practices and things. But I know how difficult it can be, and how important it is to have that support of somebody that's willing to say, this is, I mean, I know my wife would jump right in and be like, don't worry about it. Just go, take care of it. But the thing is, I feel like the value of time over the last, I mean, I've kind of always known that, but in the back of my head, but since the illness, I feel like the value of time for me has like become that much more important, that much more imperative, that like, you just don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. So like, let's get it done today. Let's spend that time together today. Let's not just put off till tomorrow. Like, yeah. I always felt that, but like after 2020, it's like to me it's just an increased sense, and I don't know if it's because the kids or because of going through the illness, and I just don't know. Maybe it's a combination of all that.
I think so. I think you hit it on, especially, during the whole pandemic, being home, you actually, at least this is very much for me, is that you actually realized and you saw and you experienced what you've been missing, and that was something where it's like, there's no going back from that. There's no going back. And I will say that, during the pandemic, because I didn't have to commute, there was a lot of time saved there. It did add extra, few hours into your day where I could have a little bit more time for this. You still spend time with your family, you saw them, all that, and then you got some extra time to work on the side business. So it's, I think, of course there's been a lot of difficult, a lot of like tragic stuff during the pandemic, of course. On the other side of it is that I think it opened up a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I think it, that commute time is killer. I mean, even when it's not, like when it's 15 to 20 minutes each way, that's 40 minutes, that's 30 to 40 minutes a day that you could be working out, you could be spending, in the business, or doing stuff with the family, or just meditating for,
Absolutely.
for Pete's sake, like, right? Like you could do, it's so much, time. I actually thought about this because somebody was getting on me about having an electric car, and I'm like, I started to do the math, right? I'm like, okay, so if you only fill up your gas tank like once a week, right? And you say like figure like 10 minutes, right? Going out of your way to fill up the tank. So it's like, okay, 520 minutes. That's like 8 to 9 hours a year that I'm not going to a gas station or thinking about having to go route myself to a gas station. Right there, like efficiency.
Yeah, seriously. By the way, awesome, man. I have an EV as well. I've got a Model 3 and
I got a Model 3 as well.
Awesome, man. Nice.
Yeah.
There's no going back, right? I mean,
no, I mean, I had a Chevy Bolt prior to that, but because that the whole callback recall thing with the batteries catching on fire and everything, I got them to buy it back. I'm not really supposed to talk about it, not yet. I mean, I got my check and everything. Finally, it took like 15 months to make all that happen.
Good for you.
But yeah, so like, I mean, if you 1-800-11-LAW, that's not sponsored, but they definitely helped me go through the process, even though it was long and tedious. Not a whole lot of paperwork, just a whole lot of waiting. And I'm just like, man, the car's just getting older and older, withering away in my driveway, and they, could be selling it or resell it, fixing it and reselling it on GM's part. But it's another story for another day. But yeah, EVs, I, very much happy with, especially since moving to the Tesla with the Tesla charging network. I don't have any range anxiety. Like I've driven to Baltimore and back. I did that twice with my Chevy Bolt and didn't have to charge. Though I came back with like 5 miles on I was like, man, I might have to end up like calling somebody here. I was real close both times. Anyway, I think that the pandemic opened up that thought process of like that time is super important, not putting that stuff off. And the other thing is like my son didn't really, because he was only 2 at the time. So when it happened, so it's like, okay, when it happened, he really didn't care about me. It was all about mom. Like it was mom, and it was like Jad's kind of there. But once I was home, once I stopped going into the shop and was home every day, all day with them, it really, like he came on to me a lot more after about 2-3 months of me being at home versus like before it was like, yeah, okay, bye, like hi, bye.
Makes
it's
a big
all about
difference. Mom. Just being around, just it just makes a new connection, and I'm so thankful for it.
Yeah. I mean, it sucked for a lot of people. I think even though it did kind of, I mean, I'm sure it kind of sucked for you too, as a parent of 2 young kids being stuck at home pretty much around the clock. It was not a picnic. A lot of days. I mean, there were so many days that we would eat out. Like we would order the food, pick it up, and bring it here, and try to like push the kids upstairs to go to bed early, just so that we could have a adult talk time.
And I just have to mention, this. I don't think this wouldn't have been really the experience that it wouldn't have been the experience that I had. If it wasn't for also the company that I was working for, I was working for ADP, the large payroll company at the time, and they're very, very family focused. They're very accommodating. It was a blast working there. Love the people. There was a lot of good relationships, and they were very understanding about all of that. So, big shout out to them. I mean, they're again they just understood what everyone was going through, and was really, really flexible about it. So.
Oh, that is great to hear, and a nice sentiment for people who use ADP to know to hear that from the inside. Yeah, I mean, I had to stop going in because my son has reactive airway disease, so he was in the hospital twice prior to COVID being a thing. In November and December, like within like 3 weeks of each other, he was in the emergency room for breathing issues. So I was like, yeah, we're not trying to figure out like what happens when he gets it. It's pretty much done. It's over. Like I'm not trying to come around a bunch of people, and we pretty much stayed home until 2022. It made it very difficult. A lot of people thought, it was very difficult because a lot of people didn't want to understand. They're just like, you just don't like us anymore. And I'm like, okay, so if my son ends up in the hospital, and fortunately, amazingly, he still hasn't gotten it. I've had it. My wife had it. My daughter had it and had 0 symptoms, but he has dodged bullets like Neo, like crazy.
Man, we've got like a lot of similarities. My son Marcus, I mean, he was a preemie, and he was in a NICU for 6.5 weeks. I mean, he had respiratory stuff also. Very sensitive to that. So, we were very, very nervous about, all of that also. So, I mean, man, I feel you. That's crazy. I'm glad you guys weathered it so well,
We've been really fortunate that, that was in August of last year, or July/August of last year, that we ended up getting it. And again, he still missed it. And I'm still worried about it, even though, I go into the office and stuff like that now, the shop now, but yeah, it's a thing. Like, it's very much always in the back of my mind. Like, someday this could be a thing and he did get sick and ended up in the hospital again twice within 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, because of his reactive airway disease just recently. I thought he grew out of it because he hadn't really gotten sick. And when he did get sick, he didn't end up in the, he wasn't having breathing issues. So, now, I don't know. I'm real hopeful that this just doesn't bite us in the butt at some point here. And but at least he's older now. He's not 2 anymore, right? He's 5, so he's a little bit older. But I mean, when his oxygen was down, it was down 86, his blood ox.
Wow.
Like, just being sick. He literally had the rhinovirus, which is just the common cold. And yeah, so I'm still pretty nervous, but he can't live in a bubble, and we can't operate for ever, So I don't know, man. It's still very much at the top of my mind, even though we can't just live in a bubble as much as I would love for him to.
Yeah.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit happier now that I'm sufficiently depressed.
I'm feeling you though, man. I mean,
oh God. Okay, so 150,000 for 20% is the initial offer that you came up with. Talk about where you got that number from.
Yeah, I mean, the valuation of that, the numbers were very, very general, and I knew coming from I didn't have too much. There wasn't a lot of history with the company. The company was really just, in terms of sales, we're just humming along. The biggest thing I really had was that Kickstarter. So really, I was just looking at a true valuation, the best valuation I could have by just being as general as possible. It was going to be around the $750,000 mark. I figure, okay, you know what? Looking at other companies also, doing a little bit of research, looking at other Shark Tank companies who had a similar history as I did, what were they asking for, et cetera. And that felt like a good number. Felt a good number. I felt good about it. That's why I went into it. Look, there wasn't no hard spreadsheet valuation or any of that, is thinking, okay, what kind of money would be something that would be very useful in terms of the plans that I had set in place, and what would be a fair number to share, equity number to share. And that was it.
I think that's fair. And knowing that it sounds like you knew going in that you had flexibility to be able to make it work for a deal.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it would have been a miracle to get that, $150K for 20%. I mean, I knew that was just going to be, and quite frankly, I thought a number of times that was probably going to shoot me in the foot. Maybe the valuation was a little too aggressive. But I think it worked out really well, and even for the 49% that actually Damon ended up offering up was just I was ecstatic about it.
No, I mean, having any offer, I think is really says a lot, right? That the Sharks were even willing to get to a place where they could, because it's all about the money, right? It's about the dollars, not the percentage or how the deal is structured. So for anyone who doesn't know, you have to walk out with the amount of money that you ask. So at 150,000, the percentage of to get a deal at 150,000 is pretty high versus like if you came in and were like, I really need like 300,000 to 500,000. Doesn't matter if you're like, hey, I'll give up 55%. Like, it doesn't matter. That's real low percentage chance of getting that, especially walking in with $7,000 in sales at the time, which is tough, right? I mean, I mean, if I was you, I'd be shaking my boots just at that alone. Because it's like, is it really going to take off? It's clearly it's not viral at this point, right?
No,
but there's proof of concept that people are willing to buy it.
Absolutely. The reaction that I definitely did not want to get was the ones where you see some of the contestants that come on. They say they'll be like, "Hey, I'm looking for $500,000 for 3% of my company," and the Sharks are like, "Whoa." So didn't want a reaction like that. That's for sure.
I make the joke all the time about the wow. It's like literally every time, right? It's usually Robert.
That's the one.
Wow.
That's the one.
Used. If it's Robert's not on there, it's somebody else that's going to say, wow. Yeah. So just so you know, money is money, regardless of if you're a multimillionaire or a billionaire. It doesn't really matter. It's not nothing to them. And that's why they still find a way to say, wow. So you're walking in the tank. Or how are you feeling walking down that hall that you've seen so often?
Oh, I mean, that right there, I was nervous. There was no doubt. I mean, I was really nervous. My face there was not authentic. Okay, I was like, holy I mean, I don't know, I almost cursed there, but I was like, holy moly, I'm so done. I'm gonna forget my lines. I'm gonna fumble on the demo, all of that. But yeah, I mean, fortunately, it went smooth and it went good.
That it did. So let's see. We got you get down this road. So I wanted to ask how much of this was actually edited, because it's going back and rewatching it tonight kind of seemed like, I don't want to say it was out of order, but your grandstanding about the grind hustle culture, right? Was that out of order? Because
I'm trying to recall back. I mean, things did not happen the way that I remember it happening. that's for sure, But I think being in the tank for at least 45 minutes, close to an hour, the amount of time that they would have to cut it down to fit that segment. I mean, going in doing a show like that, what the risks are, So you're at the mercy of their of the editing, and I mean, I think whatever makes for good TV is what's going to be shown. So, but yeah, I think there were there was a good bit of context not that didn't
because it
make
just
the
seemed
cut.
out of place, right? Like they said something, and then you started to go on. You started to talk about hustle culture, and I fully agree, right? Like I'm fully in support of, and I think it's a little. I don't know what the right word is, but I think it's kind of naive. No, naive is not the right word. Crappy that they would, for Damon to even say, oh, well, nobody talks like that. No, nobody says things like that. And like, oh, you've never hung out with Gary Vaynerchuk? You've never, I don't know, Mr. Grant, whatever his name is. I'm going to say Grant Hill. Not Grant Hill.
Grant Cardone.
Yeah. No, you absolutely have. In fact, you've even been on his show and said, oh, well, if this is the last $1,000 that you have, you should invest it. Like, just calling it for what it is, right, wrong, or indifferent. So you like, unless he's just totally tone deaf to what the people that he has been around have said.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems kind of weird that he would be like, yeah, nobody talks like that. No, it wouldn't. But hey, shout out to Lori for standing up and saying, yeah, no, that absolutely is a thing that's happening. That people are being put. I mean, there was somebody wrote the Gary V article, like Gary V is trying to kill you. And I think it was in a like a New York Times or one of those magazines, like New Yorker or something like that, along those lines.
Yeah. I mean, look. I mean, if you're on social media, I'm on TikTok. I'm looking at a lot of stuff, on there. People kind of sharing their experience and kind of how to do things. And there's a lot of quality stuff there. I mean, I'll give them that. But I think what also is just a big line share, right? Is that people are really putting out this message that if you're going to do anything, if you're going to attempt to try anything, this is what you're going to have to do. Right, you're going to have to grind, put up everything. You hear stories of people taking up second mortgages on their homes, putting just a huge risk. Also, really just sacrificing your time with family and friends, and you got to make a choice, this, that, and it's the wrong message. It really is. I mean, there's not one way to do that. And for the people who are really just grinding it out and just really have that mindset of just that's the only way to do it. Hey, good for you. I salute you. Go do that. But I don't think you should be using these platforms to really kind of just tell people, say, hey, look, if you're going to do it, this is the only way to do it. And it's not the case. It's not true. There's many ways to do it. You plan right. You compartmentalize your time. It's going to take a little bit longer. It's going to be a little bit slower burn, but that's all right. Everyone's in a different situation. That doesn't mean that you're going to be, set up to fail. And quite frankly, look, you don't have to be that big millionaire, right? You don't have to. I mean, I think there's so many people that you never hear about who are doing really well with side businesses, and it's supporting their income. They'll have a day job and a side business. Imagine making a few grand a month on top of whatever you're making, right? On something that's just kind of like on a side thing. That's huge. That's massive, but you never hear about those stories, right? You only hear about the people who put it all on the line and became millionaires, right? There's lots of ways to go about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. When you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, why, right? Why would that message have to be the message that is pushed? Or, I mean, the message that really gave Gary V the light, right, to where he is now, and among others. But I think that it's one of those things where it's like, if I was trying to justify why, right? Why give that message versus like do it, but make sure that you're doing, and because I very much do it in a measured way. Don't mortgage the house on something. I mean, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and it's always that's just the way it is, right? You do it, and you hope you put your hope and you put what you can put into it, and then if it's really that great of an idea, people will carry it. They'll carry it to the finish line with you, right? People will sign up and help you, because like Rome wasn't built in a day, and it also wasn't built by one person. So I think that when you're putting that message out there, it's like one of those things where it's like, hey, you shoot for the stars, and maybe you land amongst the moon or whatever, or you shoot for the moon and you end up amongst the stars, kind of thing. Because obviously the ones that do put the work in, likely are doing one of two things, right? They're working to fail faster, right? Working towards that failure so they can get to the next thing a lot faster. That might be the thing. Or they're working really hard because at that point they absolutely know, and they have people around them to verify that, yes, this indeed is that idea, and it's got legs to go and go and go.
Yep. So I mean, it's a great point.
Yeah, but the thing is like everybody wants the easy money, right? And that's the easy message. And it's not a new message. It's not a new thing to like put out there. It's just the message carrier has changed over the years and how it's brought to people. And maybe because it's reaching so many more people than it ever did before, other than late night TV, infomercials and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to add that there's phases to this. I think especially starting out, it's an important message to get across, right? Not to go all in, especially when you're starting out, because there's just so much unknowns. And what's worked out really well for me, what's been my process throughout all of this, is really just trying your best. And I love that you brought it up. I'm a big believer. Being in design myself, it's all about failing fast and failing cheap. And getting to that answer as quick as possible for the least amount of cost, and getting signals, hunting for signals that your idea has legs, has stickiness in the market was immensely important. Even before starting the Kickstarter, even kind of going off on this idea for this tool, I was running really low cost surveys, using pollfish.com. Just putting out questionnaires, seeing how people were kind of, if other people were having the same problems as I was. And it was really just getting small signals that gave me the confidence to take it to the next phase. So, I mean, that's really what I mean in terms of, just being thoughtful about it. I think there's lots of good how-tos out there about how to go about this, about doing this. But I think, especially for a physical product design, something in manufacturing particularly, you definitely want to be going in a little cautious because it's costly.
That it is. I mean, molds and everything, every aspect of it, patents. It's just just keep. It's like a pool, right? You got a pool. That means you got a hole in the ground. You just throw money in it, or you got a boat. You just throw money in it, right? And just keep going until it either works, and starts to float or pay for itself. But yeah, to your earlier point, the message I always say is when the chips are down, you got to swing the bat, right? So that's the thing, right? So it's like we don't always have to be on 110% nonstop. It's not healthy. It's going to wear you down. I've done it. I've been there. But when the chips are down, that's when you really need to step up, right? Like when like you were saying with your wife, stepping up and saying, hey, like take care of this and make it happen, because you don't get that opportunity every day. Not everybody gets an opportunity to go on Shark Tank, to take something that they had, an idea for and make it into a thing. And then not only make it into a thing, but then going to get to present it in front of not only the sharks, but the country and ultimately the world. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the other aspect is, and we talked a little bit about this earlier before we hit record, was we don't know what aspect of what we're doing is going to play a part later on in life, right? Like I was saying, like I was 10 years old making websites in like 96, about video games, and little did I know, 10 years later, I don't know, from then was writing blog posts that would, go and inspire people. That 10 years later, I would start a podcast that would inspire people. And then like 4 or 5 years after that, got really deep into entrepreneurship and helping small business owners with those same skill sets that I just didn't know, or, that I was laying the groundwork for that. Right. So it's like this product might be the product. It might not be the product, but everything you're learning about building that product is absolutely valuable, and that's what you're investing in. No different than a college education, in my opinion. You're investing for the hope that either it's going to pay direct, or it will, because of that, you are able to get this, that, and a third done somewhere down the line, something you haven't even thought of yet.
Exactly. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because, I quickly found out, and I quickly realized that, just inventing a product, even getting it designed and even manufactured, is only about 20% of what's going to make it successful. There's all this other stuff that I knew nothing about. I knew nothing about logistics. I knew nothing about shipping. I knew nothing about getting on different marketplaces. Marketing especially is something that's just huge. I mean, it's so important. And this first initial product had to be something simple enough because I knew there was so much of the game that I needed to learn. And this wasn't my first idea. I mean, I had several. I had a few, and this one had the most legs. Right, this gave me the best signals coming back, and that's why it gave me the confidence to act on it. So yeah, I mean, there's a whole there's an iceberg. You have your actual product and your idea, and then this thing that's under the sea that's just massive. And I'm still learning a ton. I mean, there's still a bunch of stuff that I know nothing about, and it's coming to my plate now. So.
Well, look, I always say we got the black and the white belt, right? Like, we have to be willing to learn, because I don't know everything either, but I still do the show, right? And I take my experiences and I put it together, and I'm learning about other industries, and I take that and I kind of mix it in with what I know and continue to learn. So this, to me, it's just about teaching and learning just as much as it's about teaching others, and I think that's really, I mean, that's a big boy thing to say there, as I would say to my son as a 5-year-old, right? To say like, hey, there's a lot of things I don't know, and I think that confidence to know that, and being able to admit that and say, hey, I can learn this too, is great, and will take you a lot further than just pretending that because. You know what that means? That means you're going to spend a lot more money because you're going to make a lot more mistakes, and along that path, if you're not willing to listen and learn from others and take in that input. But I think that's probably the part of the designer in you and myself as well, that, being able to take that feedback and say, okay, well, like, tell me more about this, so I can actually fix the problem instead of just being like, this sucks. Cool. Tell me why, so I can fix it.
Right.
In a different life, I'm an industrial engineer, but not in this life. but anyway, so going down that path, even with all that said, Damon gives you an offer for $150,000 for 49%. And you did counter to him back for 40%. Were you countering just the counter, or was there a thought process behind only allowing up to 40%?
No, I mean, look, I know in any kind of sales or any kind of deal making, you always counter, right? I mean, it's just automatic. You have to counter. You have to try to see, because with anything, whatever the first offer is, that's just the first offer. So, there wasn't anything really, again, no deep analysis or any of that. This is really just like, hey, look, what more can I squeeze out? Right. And that's really it. And in fact, when Damon first made that offer, I don't think I actually heard him. I don't during the time where they're all kind of like throwing all these questions. I mean, they were just like asking questions, talking over each other. I mean, it was just chaos. And I think he said it, and I think the way that he said it, I took it as, if I were to make an offer, I would be looking for X, and I kind of like brushed it off a little bit, and in hindsight, I was like, oh my God, like what an idiot, I mean, you're throwing totally just like shading Damon, but that's why it kind of made it seem like I was kind of not dismissive, but it's just kind of like I didn't really hear him actually give me an offer, and I was kind of and Lori, she started saying some things where she was interested, and I was kind of, oh, is she going to give an offer? And, I was kind of like hunting around because, we've seen that before, where one shark will make an offer and then they want to kind of see if there are any other offers. There were still some sharks on the table. So, but, I'm I'm glad that Damon did it. I think he said something about it too. He said, hey, I gave you an offer, this, that, it kind of seems like you're not. But I was like, oh, hang on. No, I'm still here. So.
Well, and that makes a lot more sense, because can we talk about the I'll quit my job, because that kind of came
bring it on.
out of sync, kind of like the hustle culture conversation, right? It seemed like it didn't Like, obviously it happened, but it felt like it kind of shoehorned in there a little bit. So, you know, and it came between. When did it come between? But was it before or after you realized that he was giving you an offer? I think it was just after, but I don't know because it was edited. So maybe it happened before and then.
So he had made that first initial offer, and then, you know, again it was kind of like this. The questions were around commitment, right? And you know, I know the Sharks. You know, I've seen different episodes. I think many people have, and even the people that you're always kind of just hearing about, right? Is that people want to go all in, and I did understand, right, that these Sharks, they're using their own money, they're investing it, right? So it's totally their call whether they want to invest in you or not, and it's totally their call to decide what kind of person, at what kind of commitment that they're going to be investing in. I totally understand that. But I think, you know, it was important for me to kind of just mention that, you know, if there was questions around that, right, that that wasn't the only path, right? There are a lot of people who are becoming successful by not having to, you know, go all in, you know, especially at first. So, you know, we talked about, I talked a little about this, that there's phases to this, and it got to a point where I thought that, okay, you know what, everyone's going to be going out. All right, everyone's going to be going out, and I made that kind of, you know, that I went on that little spiel about, you know, grind culture, and I was saying, it's like, you know, what is it going to take, right? Does it take me quitting my job? And when it comes to phases, there's going to be a point where this is the furthest I've ever gone with anything I've ever tried, and you got to make a choice at some point, right? When you get to a particular stage, you're going to have to make a tough call, right? And at that time, I was saying, okay, you know what? Can I swing this, right? Is it time to actually quit my full-time job and actually go in on this? If it means getting a deal with a shark. And that's a big moment. So at that time, I felt like, hey, you know what? I'm going to put this on the table, right? Is that if I get a deal with the shark, I'm willing to do this. So it was really just about the phase that I was in, the moment that I was in, and the opportunity that was really in my grasp, and I just did not want to lose it. So that's where I was.
And that was not well received, though.
No.
Which I think was nice. I think that was a positive outcome from that, like that it wasn't like, because I mean sometimes we see like, oh, I only want to invest in people that have, you know, are full-time or whatever in it, but the thing is you know, at the stage in which you were in the tank, it's, you know, $7,000 in sales, like you're not doing it at that point, right? Like it's still in the very early stages, and you're already working on, you know, version 2 to probably, you know, to fix the issues that you probably, if I had to guess, felt were maybe holding it back from being like, hey, how do we get to 700,000 in sales, right? How do we get to 7 million in sales? These are the issues. Let me fix the issues and come back.
Well, Joe, I want to clear this up. I would love to be in the 700,000 figure. Like that's not the number. That was just. That's $750,000. That was just an evaluation of the company as a whole. That was
no. I was saying for sales, like, because at the time you know, with $7,000 in sales, I'm saying that I want you to, you know, that like, okay, we went and we did it, but it didn't, you know, there was issues that were brought back or things that could be better, tightened up. Let me go fix those before we try to like push this a lot further, spend a lot of money in marketing, and don't get as far because it's still version 1 and people weren't necessarily on fire about like getting it and then telling all their friends about it at the time to get it to like, you know, because it's, you know, if you had 700,000 to maybe $1.5 million, 2 million in sales at that point, then it's a totally different game, right? Then it's like, okay, let's sell some more of these and we're going to work on version 2. But like, I'm so busy fulfilling orders, I just don't have the bandwidth to be able to fit this in with it at that time.
Yep. And you know, I definitely, especially the way it aired. You know, you could definitely see like, wait a minute, this guy was saying that he wasn't going to be putting in this big risk, and then, you know, right away at the end of it, he's saying, okay, you know what, he'll quit his job. I mean, you know, I think there's quite a bit of stuff in between that's just missed. And again, it really just comes down to anybody who's going to be going into anything. At some point, you're going to have to make a hard decision, and one that's you want to be careful that you're not making reckless decisions early on, right? With a lot of things you don't know. But when you do have an opportunity like that, and it's within your grasp, you're going to have to take a big shot. You're going to have to take a big shot, and it was something that I was willing to do. I think quitting my job isn't putting my family in this financial hole. Like, that's not the case. I think there's fortunately there's some things that I have in place where we can sustain a little bit by trying to see where this goes. I'm not putting up my house as collateral here. I'm not doing anything like that. It's just a point where you're taking some time off from a job. You're going to leave it. You're going to focus on this for a little bit, and then if it doesn't work out, you get another job. And
you have a resume to be able to do that, right? And I think that's a powerful thing that not everybody necessarily, definitely not everybody has that ability to do. And I think that is a confidence builder for you, that once you get that, to a place where it's like, okay, I can pay the bills, and I might need to use some of that runway money that we have stashed away for long-term. And I can take that and say, okay, if I really make a run at it and in 12 months it doesn't work, like, hey, I'm going to land on my feet because it's all good. Like, it's all good. Like, I got the resume, I got the skill set. I know I can make that happen in a job setting, versus like somebody who, say, doesn't have that resume, doesn't have that background to land in a probably somewhere in the six-figure range, and say, hey, I tried it, it didn't quite work out, but I got a lot of skill set, I learned a lot of things, and now I'm even more valuable to any employer that would take me.
There's no doubt, even in my case, my company, Anytongs, it's still very early, but even to getting to this point, the mindset that I had, the security that I had, definitely puts me in a very fortunate situation that a lot of people just don't have. Even the small risks that I was taking, these piecemeal risks that I was taking to get to this point, are things that would be incredibly difficult for so many people. So I totally understand it, and that my situation is still very, very fortunate. And I think having a wife who she is just totally killing it. She does very well. I think having that support has been really, really helpful. I think how someone takes a risk, how someone takes a shot, what plays a big part to that is kind of their what's in their mind, right? It's like, okay, how do I can I swing this? Do I have any kind of security? And if I didn't feel that way, I'd be making very different decisions. There's no doubt about that.
You probably would or should, right? Like, I think that's the important aspect to that, to our conversation earlier about the hustle culture, is like, you got to make the decisions that are right for your family at the time in which they're right, and also live with the consequences of the choices that you've already made, right? Like, that's why people that come to this channel, I get the question a lot, like, I don't really have a lot of money to be able to do this, but I have this idea for a product, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, look, you got to go to the MVP, right? What's the minimal viable product that you can create and sell? But I think in a lot of ways, not having a lot of money is really kind of like a value that is should be looked at as a value, because that means you don't have big bills. That means if like things don't work out, guess what? You're probably still in the same place you are, right? Like, it's not like, not that that's great, but guess what? It's not downgrading necessarily. Like, you got one place to go, and that's up, right? Versus like, oh, I can't take this big risk because like my house, payment, my mortgage, my cars, my wife, the kids, the this, the that, like all these credit card bills and stuff, like, those are all choices that have been made that you got to atone for before you can say, hey, let me just quit the money maker, even if the money maker is only a little bit of money, and go all in on an idea that hasn't even been like at least somewhat vetted and proven.
Yeah. There's just I've met so many people who my age. I'm 40 now.
I'm almost there, man. I'm 36.
Hey, oh, dude, you got a few years, man. You're good. I've met so many people who were pretty much in the same boat, same age as me, same range, and they're we're always kind of I'm always talking about ideas and like, oh, wouldn't this be cool to do this? And especially in my field, you meet a lot of these types of people. And it's great fun, talking, but you get a lot of the responses and their reactions are kind of like, oh, I'm this age now and I got a family. Like, that's it. It's done. And you sense in them that they've got this itch, that they want to just, they wish they could have done something or could do something. There's still plenty of opportunities, still plenty of time. And again, you can make it work. You can make it work. Just be, smart about it, plan well, and be patient. Patience is a big thing. And, I just hope that really anything that segment would give to people are people who are in a similar place where they kind of have this itch and they're wondering, like, do I have to, risk so much? I mean, should I, is it worth doing? I think you should. I totally think you should, and that you can. You don't have to break the bank. Even if it's something that could be quite costly, like a physical product, you still can do it. It's got to be a little bit more methodical. It's going to take a little bit more time, but I really just want to I really want to help people kind of get to this point where you can have the best of both worlds. I honestly think you can do that. I think you can build something meaningful. You can build something that is economically rewarding. At the same time, keep your peace. So,
Yeah, I call it treadmilling on zero, right? And we have to remember that every day we can move 1% or 0.1%, 0.0%, as long as it's not zero, like that we're standing still on, and that applies. Treadmilling on zero also goes for sales as well. Like if you're in Toge's position and you're like, oh, I have this thing and I've sold a couple $1,000, $10,000 of it or whatever. That's not nothing. Even if you're not doing $10,000 a day, it's not nothing. You got to get off the idea that you're just treadmilling on zero over and over and making nothing. You got to be continuously moving forward. And I think if you're going to buy into any kind of culture, hustle or grind or whatever, like how about grinding that 0.01%, that 0.1%, right? That 1% per day, just move the needle a little bit every day towards what your goals are. And yeah, I always say we have three strings we can pull on, right? Time, money, and energy, right? So you're always going to pull on at least two of those in most cases to move the needle forward, right? So it's like, you only have so much energy, you only have so much time, and you only have so much money to be able to pour into it. So you got to make sure that you're utilizing those really wisely in the process. And again, you can have that idea and then say, okay, like I'm going to investigate, and you take 20 minutes and you start doing some patent research. Just do a Google search, right? Does it exist? Right, you had the idea. Right. Google it. Does anybody find out about this? No, nobody got it. Okay, cool. Let me take the next step. Go and do some patent research, right? Go to the patent website and just start digging in and just see what's out there. If it ain't there, then you start doing some sketches and do some, you know what I mean? Like you can move the needle without having to pour in your life savings and everything right out of the gate. And maybe that idea leads to the next idea, that you didn't even think of.
That's right. And I will say that this opportunity to get on Shark Tank, not only to get on it, but also to actually have a deal with Daymond John, it is probably one of the one of the best business cheat codes. I mean, really, I think the exposure is just unmatched. I mean, you couldn't hope for a better amount of exposure. And then also, I think when Damon John, when he actually gave the offer, inside I was so ecstatic. I was so psyched because of the fact that, I mean, this, he's known as the people shark, and he understands, he likes to help out the little guys, and his history is awesome, very, very inspiring. He started in the garage, building FUBU, and I think there's a lot of a lot of the stuff just resonates with them. So I was really, really ecstatic. So I think going forward, being in that presence with him and his team is going to just, again, give me some cheat codes in terms of, learning, figuring things out. There's just so much. And, he's been a great help. His team has been a great help, and I'm really excited about it.
No, that is awesome. So have you been able to close your deal yet with him?
Yeah. Yep. It's closed.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
yep.
Congratulations.
I mean, thank you. The team, the terms are not exact to, what's been aired, but it's very favorable. Like, we're both really happy about it. We're in business.
That is awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So once you got back from out of the tank, got back home, what were some of the first things you did? Because, I mean, obviously you don't know if you're going to air until 3 weeks prior to it actually happening. And that's assuming that there isn't like an invasion of a country where they run a special like they did last season or whatever. But, assuming that kind of world news event type of thing doesn't happen, what were you doing to prepare for the potential to get to go on Shark Tank?
Oh boy. Well, so the thing is that they do make note that even if you pitch, there's no guarantee that you're going to air, and if you do, like you said, you're going to get notified just only weeks prior. And I was really worried because of the fact that, in terms of funds for the business, I mean, it was pretty dried up. And how do I prepare inventory for this if it does air, right? I was out of inventory. I had maybe just a couple hundred, and that was it. So how do we build up this inventory, right? How do we do this? I had several conversations with Damon. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be a little too much to share, but basically we were able to work something out where I was able to build up inventory to prepare for the airing, if it were to air. And
so like a side deal is what you're saying. That's what it sounds like to me. Like, hey, our main deal is like we're going to get there, right? But in the meantime, I'm just saying, like, but that's smart, right? Because Damon knows that if it's going to have legs, this is the time it's going to have legs. And if you don't have inventory, then like we might as well just stop talking because it's not going to go anywhere. Like, people aren't going to put in for a pre-sale or a pre-order or placement order for something that's like $10, $20 and then wait months for it, right? Yep. It's going to fall back. It's going to fall to the wayside and potentially, basically dissolve, become vaporware, to borrow a programming term, before it ever even has the potential to really have legs on the biggest the merchandise platform in the world.
Yeah. Yep. So that was my biggest priority, was just figuring out a way to build up inventory in the event that we do air. And it was a big if still, because, again, I mean, you get inside your own head, you're thinking, oh, you pitched and stuff. Oh, your segment's going to be kind of crappy. They're not going to air it. At every point in this entire process, there's a phase where you're waiting and you're thinking to yourself, you know what? It's not airing, or, you're not going to be able to pitch, et cetera, et cetera. It's just kind of, it was just a constant. So I got to this point where we're saying, okay, you know what? If we do air, we have to have inventory. That was the top priority. Worked with Damon, and we got that done. It was a mad scramble with the manufacturing. Got it done. And the inventory was going to be arriving at the warehouse days before it actually airs. And we were cutting it so close. And of course, the worst thing happens, right? There's multiple delays. It airs. The response was awesome. But then, delays, logistical delays. It was just a big high demand. Inventory was slowly coming in. We couldn't get these things out quick enough. My warehouse in Texas, there was an ice storm which caused more delays. And it's just, but I think what was really key and very, very helpful was Damon's team just being available and just kind of like guiding me through what to expect, what to prepare for, what are some good strategies to communicate with customers, and it's been incredibly helpful. I mean, it was it was a lot of work and a big scramble, but got it done.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Love it. So, did you have a launch or a watch party for the airing?
Yes. Yep. There was pockets, there was different, family and friends from, all over, they had all the little like separate like watch parties. And yeah, I mean, it was, it's very hard for me to watch. I honestly did not want to be around anybody when this aired. I had no idea how it was going to, be shown or how it was going to be cut. And of course, the first time I see myself on TV where they have this little promo of what's next, it has me cursing on live on national TV, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is not going to go well.
Oh man. So you watched it by yourself, or did you watch it did you have some friends and family over, or did you what?
Yeah. So I had a snowboarding trip planned for a while, and of course, the air date confirmed was that weekend. So I was actually in Vermont with friends, and my wife, she was with family here having the watch party. So we weren't together, and I was really, really bummed about that. But it was a trip that we had planned for a while, a guy's trip, and deposits were already put out and couldn't back out of it. So the watch party happened for me in Vermont with my buddies, and yeah, I mean that's how it went down. And yeah, it was it was fun. It was a good fun time. But again, like I said, it was hard for me to watch, and it's hard for me to even think about that all my friends and family were going to be watching this and seeing me on there. So,
and let me just give you some kudos for living what you said on national TV, not the curse word, but the the anti-hustle culture, right? Because you could have been like, nope, screw it, I ain't going, I'm gonna stay home, I'm gonna watch this thing and see it through. And instead you chose to follow through with the boys, right? And make that happen. It's a tough decision, and I'm sure as much as I'm praising you, somebody else could be, damning you for that that decision. But I think I think that I probably would have kept the same if I really wanted to be with the people that I, committed to go with that for that. Like if I wasn't looking for a reason to not go, I absolutely would have probably kept it, and it would have sucked, deep down, because I'd want to be with my wife too. And
yeah. But Joe, don't get it twisted, man. I mean, I was a mess on that trip. My friends will tell you on the car ride there, chasing down where my inventory was, where it was currently. I was on the phone constantly on the entire ride. It was about a 5.5 hour drive. I was on the phone constantly. When I got there, I brought all my stuff, computer, made sure the internet was super reliable at the house, all of that. I had my whole setup there, everything. And, everyone knew when it came down to it, I was going to be working, and I was working. I was working. I had everything set up there. I just didn't want to back out on the boys.
Well, hey, and that goes back to what I said earlier, right? When the chips are down, you swing the bat. You didn't just be like, we'll watch it on TV and whatever happens. Like you prepared to be there for it so that you could, keep your commitment to to the boys and to what everything's going on. So look, it just happens. Everything happens for a reason and the way it's supposed to happen. And I'm sure that there was a lesson or two out of that to take for the long haul.
Yeah, that's right.
So all right, so where what is the future of Anytongs looking like?
Yeah, the future is looking good. Sales right now they're humming along. I've got some strategies on what to do for the next few months. A big focus is going to be on version 2. This version, this whole process of building out the MVP. I mean, that's essentially what this version 1 was. It was never truly meant to be the version of it. I've got designs that are way more refined, that have a lot more capable features, and this one isn't perfect by far. And the cost of developing that really refined version was just so much. I mean, there's more parts, there's more pieces, and this version 1 was done in a way where it was going to have the least amount of parts, and it's going to be the most cost effective to produce. So that's what's put out there, and the signals and the feedback and the response are just great. I mean, they're really great. Of course, I would have loved this version to fit a much wider range of utensils, but again, the cost and timing just it wasn't right to do that. So for this version 2, now I have the means to get that done and done right. So this version 2 is going to look sexier. It's going to have a lot of built-in features that the version 1 doesn't have. It's going to be able to fit even a wider range of utensils, possibly even odd-shaped ones. I'm really excited about it. So now we get to do this right and do it properly. So I'm really excited about it. And that's awesome. That's outside of like potential, expansion of a product line. So again, a lot of things in the works. I'm really excited about it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And where can everybody go to get their Anytongs?
Anytongs.com, and I'll be on Amazon in a few weeks.
Well, that is great. So I gotta point out, I'm on a 4K screen over here, so I gotta shrink it down or expand it a little bit to be able to get the full picture. Because at 100%, I see your two heads.
It's all good.
As as a designer, I'm sure you know, and I know that not everybody's on a 4K screen, but I just noticed it's the first thing I noticed when I pulled it up. So and you absolutely should. I mean, I think it's a really great idea, especially for anybody that has somebody with food allergies in their family. I think right off the bat, right there, I think it makes it's a no-brainer, right there. Not even talking about the commercial potential, for them to be able to have, it's like, oh, did we change it? Doesn't matter if we changed it or not. We just change it out again, right? And being able to clean forks and spoons rather than full-on tongs that take up more space and are bigger to have to have an. In fact, it's funny. I was at a meeting the other day, and I'm in the kitchen of the place where the meeting was being held, and they opened up the drawer, and I'm like, wow, every pair of tongs in or whatever county in the county are right here, because it was just full of tongs in this drawer. But yeah, and shout out. Speaking of that, shout out to New Jersey. You're in Clifton, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
yep.
That's awesome. Are you born and raised New Jersey, or are you
born and raised
somewhere else? Oh, my man, that's awesome.
You got ties to Jersey?
Oh, I'm in South Jersey. Born and raised in South Jersey. Philadelphia is my city of
hey.
Where I live. I can see the skyline from down the street from my house. So
nice.
Yeah. So it's awesome. I love seeing people rep out in New Jersey.
Love New Jersey.
I do too. I got a love-hate relationship with the tax situation, but outside of that, I think it's one of the best states to live in. I'm within 2 hours of 5 major cities: DC, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Atlantic City in the shore, and New York. And I could be in Connecticut in not too much longer than that. So
Yeah.
you know, I can't hate, like, it's hard to hate it. It's expensive, but it's worth it. I mean, that goes again to that money thing where it's like, hey, you know, if you make choices that enable you to be able to, you know, live cheaper or not have to have such high credit card bills or mortgage payments, car payments, and things like that nature, then you'll have more money to sink into those ideas and invest in yourself along the way. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Tog, how did you come across the video, by the way?
So I'm on a group thread, and you know, someone saw the video, saw the YouTube channel, and they texted in the thread, and they were like, dude, someone this this person on YouTube is calling you out to you know, get on the show. And I've you know, I've seen your show before, and I'm like, wait, what? No way. So then I saw it, I watched the episode, and I was like, holy crap, this is awesome. Yeah, like, count me in. And I immediately went to the the comments, you know, and said, hey, let's do this. And that's how I found out.
Oh, that's awesome. So you have seen the show before, though, you said.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I've seen like bits and pieces, like some like certain posts of here. You know, I know, like, again, being on Shark Tank, like, I think especially I was watching I was watching clips when I knew I was going to be on, and just kind of just really just seeing how you know, I think your breakdowns were just like really helpful, just kind of seeing how people are doing things. So you know, that's why it was just kind of hit me. I was like, wait, no, it's not this guy. No. And as it was.
Yeah, that's me, and you know, I do it the night of the airing. So for me, it helps bring a lot of new people into the super community, and then gets people, you know, your attention generally, because I know it's funny, like when I don't, I think it's interesting when I don't hear from the entrepreneur, because it's like, I know somebody saw the video, right, and reached out. I mean, because like, I've gotten so many people that have been like, I heard from so many people I haven't even talked to in forever. They heard that I was going to be on the show, but they couldn't watch it, so they went to YouTube, found the video, and then sent me the video, because they were like, oh, they called, you know, hey, come on the show and all. So I'm like, oh, come on. I know that these people probably know, especially the ones from the new episodes that are airing that night. Most likely know about it. So, you know, if you're watching this and you're like, man, I don't know if I should come on, like, reach out. You know, I make as much time as I possibly can for it, which is only one night a week at this point, to make time for these interviews. But they seem to be going pretty well, so I will continue to make the time for them.
Definitely. Don't stop, man. Don't stop.
Well, thank you, Tog, for taking the time coming on the show. I'd love to have you on again to follow up, especially once you get version 2 and see what's going on with the company. And you know, when next time I'm in North Jersey, or next time you're in South Jersey or Philadelphia, let me know, man.
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll go get a cheesesteak together.
Oh, I'm in. You spoke to my soul.
Sweet. Thank you for waiting all the way to the end to hear this message about how much I appreciate you being here all the way to the end of the video. If you haven't watched Tog's video yet, click up here and we'll see you over there. If not, I'll see you in the video down below. Take care and go be super.